Allow me to introduce our panelists this morning. At the top of the hour, if you joined us, you saw me introducing to you Senator Aaron Cheriot, and also we have with us Dr. Salisu. We do have with us Otenda Molo as well, and we are joined this morning by the former Senator of Kakamega. This is Boni Khalwale, and also we are joined by Jacob Midio. First of all, this bedroom that Mandago is talking about, that Raila has gone, I think also has been absolutely captured in the Daily Nation by Munene, and this is what is in the Daily Nation today. Maybe we can try and start from this particular bedroom affairs, right? And we begin with Senator Cheriot, looking at this bedroom.
Why Jubilee?
Yeah.
You want my comment?
This is the Jubilee party.
You want my comment?
And we can see Raila actually, jutting out his head or his torso from beneath this particular bed. So.
Well, I don't think he's spot on the news that he's entirely accurate that the Jubilee bed is that broken, because I do not think things are as bad as he portrays. But on the concept of Raila trying to wreck Jubilee from within, I think there is good logic in what Munene is saying, and I agree with him, because you have got to look at the history of the man right from the time he was in politics. What is a premium on Raila's word? In my opinion, it is zero. He tells you this and completely does the opposite. So it will be foolish of us as a party to believe that he means well with the handshake, the way our party leader means well with it. To him, and we've had confession from his fellow NASA principals that he has confided in them secretly that please don't be in a hurry. I've just gone to wreck Jubilee and come back home. Don't go anywhere. And when you test those words against his previous conduct, right from NDP to LDP, initial Ford, remember what he did to Kijana Wamalwa in Thika Stadium, and what he went ahead to do with KANU, ODM Kenya, what he has done to CORD. Now you can see ODM is trying to sort the challenges in Jubilee while NASA is dead, their own formation. If they were serious about trying to heal any challenges that are faced with political parties and coalitions, then the right place for Rengo and Raila to start is in NASA, which is now functionally dead. But for them to try and appear as if there is anything they are trying to sort in Jubilee,
Thank you.
I agree with Munene that Raila's interest is only one, which is to wreck Jubilee.
All right.
On that one,
Dr.
Munene is right.
I think Jubilee's problem is mainly because the formation of Jubilee itself lacked any ideology. In fact, the only strategy Jubilee has ever had is having money. That's the only strategy they have. And usually that actually, when that comes to serious politics, it starts driving the corruption wheel. So in the process, the corruption now is no longer corruption or graft. Now it's just outright theft. Outright theft, and then you've got many things coming up because criminals have therefore found fertile ground to thrive, such that you are now able to find them with billions in fake currency. I think this is just Jubilee. They lacked any ideology whatsoever. And the only thing they had was money. And when the money runs out, they raid the national coffers. And that is what is ailing them. So it's not that Raila is cracking their bed, no. Their bed was made of clay. It was bound to crack. It's just that people had not realized that. It's very unfortunate for the country, because as a ruling party, when they start behaving the way they are behaving, then the country is in trouble. It's in real trouble. Actually, we are in a very dangerous place, because the ruling party seems to be cracking, and they are blaming everybody else except themselves. Yet it's themselves who had no ideology at all. In fact, when they keep on saying, we'll do this, it's all because they are borrowing. And as they borrow, they steal half of it, and only half gets on the ground. I think it will take at least 20 years to clean the country of this mess that Jubilee has put the country in.
All right. Okay, let's hear from Otenda Molo. We have Ben Washali, the National Assembly Chief Whip, saying that Jubilee's trouble have been fueled by the handshake deal between Uhuru and Raila. And he says, quote unquote, the handshake brought a lot of stability in the country. However, when it was transformed into the fight against corruption, it became a poison chalice targeting one person. Do you fly with what he's saying?
Of course, that is utter hogwash.
Utter hogwash.
Yes, but let us start with this
Did it show cartoon?
fiction. Unfortunately, I think it's a lazy cartoon.
It's a lazy
I think
journalism.
it's lazy because, first of all, we all know there's a problem. So merely depicting a cartoon that shows there's a problem is not innovative. There must be something to be conveyed more than that. First, it is lazy and unfortunate because I don't like a cartoon that puts two men in one bed. Even morally, that is improper. That's number one. Number two, it is not entirely accurate because it seems to suggest that on the side where the president is, those are the TNA colors. On the side where the deputy is, those I think are the URP traditional colors. Oh, yeah. I think the reformulations within Jubilee transcend this traditional TNA and URP. So I think there are people who have shifted both ways. But thirdly, it's completely unacceptable because once you depict those problems of Jubilee, then he puts Raila under the bed. And that's a continuation of what was Shirley and the others, that narrative, that Jubilee's problems are from Raila. And especially when he suggests that he's hiding. Raila has not hidden anything. The handshake was in public. What he intends to achieve, the 9-point agenda, is also in public. I think it is time to stop scapegoating. I think those in Jubilee, like Senator Cheruiyot, those who have joined them recently, like Dr. Halwale, and those who are leading them in Parliament and elsewhere, must stop bringing Raila's name to Jubilee's problem. I agree with Dr. Iseli that the first problem is that Jubilee never had an ideology. What I don't agree with is that the ideology was money. Well, it might be. But I think what united Jubilee was the ICC narrative. Once ICC came to pass, there's nothing else left standing, and that is the main problem. So once there's nothing else left standing, so now it's a narrative of who gains what advantage in terms of 2022. When you cannot attack the handshake, as what Shirley is doing, or as Senator Cheruiyot and the others are doing, and yet the person whose hand is in that Gazette notice is the president. It's not Raila's. The Gazette notice appointing the BBI team is signed by the president. You cannot attack Raila when the deputy president contradicts the president's own statement. Where does Raila come in? When the president says the war on graft will continue, the DCI will continue, and the DP comes and says that war is targeting me. Where does Raila come in? You cannot bring in Raila when we've just seen the clip of a justifiably hungry president in Namibia saying that it does not matter how close you are to me, even if you are my closest ally. And then the Jubilee communications team goes to edit out parts of those statements, and with the result that the presidential social media is even suspended, and you blame Raila for all that. Where does Raila come in? It is time that Jubilee stops scapegoating. And it is time that the deputy president makes a decision, and I've said this before and I repeat, that the idea of the constitution, just like with the deputy governors, is that the deputy president is elected together with the president to deputize. In fact, the constitution is very clear. The deputy president is the principal assistant to the president, and his primary task is to deputize. The moment you realize that you are not comfortable deputizing, then you leave that job because you are no longer deputy to anyone. And I think that's where we are with all these shenanigans. Yes.
Right, and we have now the parliamentary, because Aaron Cheruiyot certainly denies that there is nothing wrong within Jubilee right now, right?
I haven't said anything. To
Right.
the contrary, I think from the last 2 or 3 shows, and the least likely of my witnesses on this is Otiende Amolo.
That I agree. It is Senator Matangi who has kept denying. Senator Cheruiyot has recently admitted in the last 2 weeks.
I just wanted to check his reaction. So some a bit of reverse psychology. Right. And providentially sitting on Senator Matangi's seat today is Boni Khalwale. Now officially he's taken he's taken over from Senator Matangi. Let's hear from Boni Khalwale on this. So is Jubilee, of course you've not been initially initiated into Jubilee because we don't know your stand as it is right now. Either if you're still in Ford Kenya or you are actually in Jubilee. Where do you stand? And what is your reaction on that particular editorial cartoon?
I think as to where I stand,
Yes.
it is left to members of the public. Whatever you weave, either because of osmosis between you and your neighbor or Tingalolo where you are sitting.
Now where do I come in?
Weaving. Or because of your newfound love between you and Dr. Seli, who is the Secretary General of Fort Kenya. It remains that I'm the deputy party leader of Fort Kenya.
Yeah.
And nobody in Fort Kenya, including the party leader, has got the power to remove me. I can only be removed by organs of the party. And the organs of the party are populated by people. And those people are not sycophants of Eseli, sycophants of Wetangula, or sycophants of my brother, Dr. Amaro Otiende. So we are sitting pretty. I'm the deputy party leader of Kenya. We are now practicing politics in the changed environment thanks to the decision by our captain of NASA that he wished to work with our nemesis, who was the captain of Jubilee. So that rests that question. My second comment is on that cartoon. Let me ask whoever sends Amaro Otiende here that if you must continue sending him, then let him have a good memory. To tell viewers that Jubilee was formed, Jubilee Party was formed due to ICC, is to forget that, honestly, in the days of the struggle to save themselves from the news at the ICC by the Deputy President and the President, there was no party called Jubilee. There are here 13, 14 political parties. The political party called Jubilee came in the other day, just before we went into the general election. So Amaro Otiende, take your brief in the usual high standards of lawyers, that your brief must be backed with facts that can stand the test of a court of law. Washiali, about that brief, the cartoon, he has said that Jubilee's problems started with the handshake. I will continue reminding people that President Uhuru is not a fool. Neither is Raila a fool. When they went there, kila mtu alikuwa na lengo lake na kila mmoja wao alikuwa na nia ya kupanga mwenzake. Uhuru not only comes from a very wealthy family, but is a family which is economically active by way of doing business in this country. And many of his friends and many of the members from his community are principal players in the business environment of this country. President Uhuru wanted to protect those businesses because Raila was not resting in asking people to cause havoc anywhere and everywhere. I say this with authority because in one meeting, I sat with him and Madama and Miguna and Orengo. And he told us that we transform ourselves from NASA to become a national movement. And he proposed that Mudama becomes the head, and Mikuna and I become his deputy. So when we left with Mudama, we went to ask ourselves, what is this man talking about? We start an armed wing in the country when we don't even have, some of us, even a pistol. The nearest weapon you have is probably a rungu that you use to go for bullfighting. There's a lot of rubbish.
But why didn't you put him to task and ask him that question? Why did you walk out of a meeting, then you ask him, or you talk with Mudama? Why didn't you put
If you had
question to
followed
him?
me on all my debates, you know, these guys of mine, they don't instill any fear in me. This is why you see me always telling them in black and white. You have heard what I've said about my party leader. People must stand for what they have done, for what they have said, and with whom they have associated. So, because President Uhuru wanted an environment, calm environment, serene, where businesses could go on, he has achieved it 100%. Raila was thinking that he would create something called Building Bridges Initiative, create some funny 9-point agenda, and so on, to strengthen himself for 2022.
Thank you.
But it has been difficult to go there. So as far as I'm concerned, Raila is still at ground zero, and President Uhuru is on the epith floor of that tower that they call the handshake.
So essentially what you're saying is Raila is a loser on this?
Completely.
Completely?
Yes.
Okay, let's hear from...
And if you're doubting, when I'll debate the intended impeachment motion
Please.
of Orengo, I will show you why I think Raila is right at ground zero.
Right. Okay, let's hear from Giacomo. Good morning.
Good morning,
Yeah,
Dibal.
that editorial cartoon, we begin with it.
Yes. Let me agree with Dr. Eseli and Tiende Amolo. By the way, Dibal, let me begin by saying on my way here, and I wasn't late, I've just witnessed a very gruesome accident on Kenyatta Avenue that somebody was killed, and I think it's a sad way to begin your right in front of All Saints Cathedral. I think it looked more like a hit and run.
And the person was
who
left
going
on
to
the road?
deliver milk somewhere. I think he was walking already. I think a vehicle recklessly hit him, and hopefully they apprehended the killer. And my condolences.
Right, and we
The
do hope
cameras
the
were-
CCTV cameras are working.
Well, let's hope they will work for Kenyan. It was all corruption anyway. How come they have never apprehended the killers of Jacob Jum and Mushai? Same area.
All right.
So anyway, the cartoon. Let me agree with Dr. Eseli and Dr. Tiende Amolo by disagreeing with them. Raila is on that bed to wreck Jubilee, because Jubilee is the worst thing that has ever happened to Kenya. Jubilee took a very sound economy in the hands of Kibaki, just like Moi used to do when Raila dissolved NDP and joined KANU and transformed it, which is the stepping ground we used to campaign for Kibaki, to give us that sound economy that Jubilee has run down through corruption to the ground. So to pretend that he has not gone there, no, he has gone there. He has jumped into the ring. He's fighting a very bad omen for Kenyans, which is the Jubilee. And Honorable Boni, it is true that there was no Jubilee party, but there was formed a Jubilee alliance out of the Hague, the survival attempt. The country needed the handshake. And I think the handshake was all those academic things which were said. You can't achieve them without peace. What I want to agree with Boni with is that the handshake must not metamorphosize into a route of war, because I think it takes us away from the peace. We seem to be violently talking about going back or threatening the little piece, the small piece that we have, or the young piece that we have. I think we must agree that for Kenya to move forward, a few lies must be dispelled, and an opportunity must occasion itself that we change direction. For example, Deba, the Jubilee Party, which Raila is methodically destroying, told us of the laptops, told us of Kunana Gulali, and Kenyans are now dying of hunger, while that thing was supposed to produce millions and millions of food to our basket. They told us about 5 stadiums, dams, and all those things. We must stop this. And if the Jubilee corrupted the electioneering system, another route must be found. In my language, we say there are many ways of skinning a cat. And I think Raila is the master of skinning it. And to say that Raila, what Senator Cheriot is saying, that Raila has never, he destroys everywhere. Because he destroys bad things. I think he's a good destroyer. I mean, you want to say Raila has been in many political parties.
Thank you. We'll take a short break right now.
William Ruto has been in more political parties than Raila.
All right.
Not true.
Thank you.
That's a lie.
Did I just hear you
It's a
saying that
lie.
Raila is
White
methodically
lie.
destroying Jubilee Party?
Yeah, it needs to be destroyed.
For
It's a bad omen for Kenya.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
we take a short break right now.
dishonest.
When we circle back, of course, we continue with the discussion here on the bid of impeaching the deputy president, which is being fronted by Senator James Orengo. And this editorial cartoon aptly captures what is really happening right now. Do you think in any way that someone is actually puppeteering this? Oh, let me try and zoom out a bit for you to see it clearly. Views expressed below are not our own, but we can see where the ropes are tangled up right now. We have Orengo there, Murade, Sudi, and yes, the executive and Raila, Honorable Raila also is enjoined there. So are these the mouthpieces of, some of his leaders? That's the probing question. And we shall be discussing about Senator James Orengo's, of course, bid also on the other side of a break. And this is a question we're asking you. What are your reactions? Right, hit us on Twitter, AM Live NTV. AM Live NTV also is our profile name on Facebook, and 20686 is our SMS portal. This is a question we're asking you that we desire to know your reactions on. Before we take a short break, here it is. Right, we're asking you, do you think the bid by James Orengo will fly? Right, do you think the bid by James Orengo to impeach Deputy President William Ruto will fly? We'll take a short break right now. When we come back, of course, we continue the discussion. Say, Senator James Orengo, a key ally of opposition Chief Raila Odinga, says is championing the Ruto removal bid, and Jubilee lawmakers are calling for a parliamentary group meeting, insisting the meeting is long overdue and essential in steadying the Jubilee House that is on the verge of implosion. According to some of the Jubilee party, some of the Jubilee legislators, the party is in flames and must be salvaged. The political tectonic plates shifting. And do you think Orengo's bid to impeach Deputy President William Ruto will fly? That is a probing question that we're asking you this morning, right? Do you think the bid to, or do you think the bid by Senator James Orengo to impeach Deputy President William Ruto will fly? Or this is just a snowball in chance in hell? So we slice and dice this with our panelists this morning. If you're joining us, I'm holding court with Otena Molo, who is a member of parliament from Mereda. Also, we do have with us Dr. Eseli Simiu, who is a member of parliament from Tangaren. We do have Senator Aaron Cheriot from Kericho. Also, we do have with us Jacomedio, who is a former member of parliament from Game. And also, we do have with us as well the party leader, Deputy Party Leader of Ford Kenya. This is Boni Khalwale. Let's just begin on this particular topic, Aaron Cheriot. Yeah, you think this is just batting his head on the wall? That is James Orengo. It will not really fly?
You know, Dibala, you must remember something that I told you earlier on this morning, that there's a grand scheme by Raila Odinga. And the grand scheme involves many such initiatives, which unfortunately will never see the light of the day, but will allow him to pursue them. Their chance of accomplishing the mission nonetheless. You must remember one thing. James Orengo is not just doing this out of an exercise in futility. This is part of Raila's plan, that he looks at the position of a deputy president, he salivates at it, believes that now, you see nowadays when he's speaking, he says only the president is equal to me. Therefore, in his mind, he thinks he can be deputy president. That's why he has sent Orengo to try and, you know, you must give the man at least some form of marks for trying. Whether he succeeds or not is a whole debate nonetheless. You must remember one thing, that part of the scheme also, Debal, is including sending errand boys like Kamanda and Murathe and company. And these are people that he does not even trust, to a point that he has to send supervisors to accompany them to functions. That's why when you see Kamanda and the Murathes, they have to be followed up by the likes of Antonio Luoch, Jared Okello, to go and supervise the work that they are supposed to execute for this grand scheme. Therefore, it is not something that would worry me any day, because I am in Parliament. I know how parliamentary procedures work, and therefore, for whatever the value that it is to Raila Odinga, we urge him to go ahead and bring this impeachment motion against William Ruto.
So you think these views, of course, the way that it has been aptly captured there by Victor in the Star, the views of Orengo are not his?
Yes,
he's just a mouthpiece of...
Orengo and Murathe, I've told you, are part of the plan of Raila's grand scheme. So that cartoon is right.
And Sudi?
Sudi is not. Sudi is his own man.
Is it? Yeah.
I know him, he's my friend.
Between Orengo and Sudi, who can be their own man? Between Orengo and Sudi, who can be their own man?
Of course, Sudi. Of course, Sudi.
Okay, you done, Dr.
Yeah,
Dr.
I'm done.
Eseli?
I think what happened here, Orengo was actually addressing a campaign rally in his home county. And it's just that the media happened to be there and they captured him saying that. I think he was just trying to convince the people to vote for his candidate. I don't think he was serious about this. Because, remember, if that kind of motion gets to Parliament, both houses, knowing Ruto, he's going to use it, turn it around, he wins, and therefore declares it a vote of confidence in him. That's what Ruto will do. Remember, even look at Central. One reason why there's anger among some people, not all, some people in Central, is that the Jubilee nominations were arranged such that most of the members of Parliament from that region are actually Ruto's people. So they will definitely vote against the motion, because Ruto already controls this Parliament. And how he controls it is what I said earlier on. The money. The money. You know, the only strategy Ruto has is money. That's it. Money, money, money. It's, you know, it costs a bomb.
So this will actually swing both ways, even from the opposition.
Can I even control some opposition people? I mean, if Khalwale were in Parliament, where would he be? So it's this. It costs a bomb, and this, because it costs a bomb. I know it's buying everybody, elected leaders, and eventually they also buy the electorate. So it's a sort of sickening situation that we are facing. But the best strategy here is to beat Ruto at the ballot. That's the only thing that will silence him.
Good.
Beat him at the ballot.
I agree.
Despite his money. Because remember, we beat Kano before, in 2002, despite the money. So it's about time now to re-educate Kenyans that when you see politicians becoming rich in politics and they don't have any known serious business ventures in the country, know there's something wrong with the politics. And that politics can ruin a whole country. And that is what we are seeing now. Politicians are becoming richer than the richest businessmen in this country. How? Because many of them got into those positions to use them to get government tenders, to tenderpreneur, and now they have even stopped doing that. Now it's just outright theft. And all this money, and I've said this on this program before, all this money is going to end up in the next campaign. So Kenyans need to be very prepared. We need to prepare the Kenyans and tell them, hey, ladies and gentlemen, dear voters, come the next election, the amount of money you're going to see, you've never seen it before.
Okay.
Pocket it, but vote in the right people. And that's the only way to stop William Ruto. Vote against him. And that's because I've always said Jubilee, never again.
Okay.
Anybody associated with Jubilee, which includes His Excellency William Ruto, is the deputy. So anybody associated with Jubilee, 2022, no. That's the only thing that will save Kenya.
Okay. Otiende, let's hear from you from a legal perspective as far as this impeachment motion, if it is to come to be a motion in the House, will it fly? Or are we just wasting our time here? It's a flash in the pan, it will pass away.
Thank you. Let me address that, but let me make two quick comments first. You know, some of us wake up to come to this panel to educate Kenyans as best we know how. But there are those of us who get paid by how much they attack others, especially Raila. So I want to tell Dr. Boni Halwale that for me, I don't get paid in terms of coming here or in terms of attacking anyone. So when you say that I tell whoever sends me, I'm sure you're speaking tongue in cheek. But I think
So you're not there.
oh, of course, I'm certainly not there. But it is interesting that Dr. Boni Halwale should talk about history, that we must stand with what we've said before, we must stand with those we were associated with, which I think is a respectable thing, if it were not for his political itinerance. I like what he says, but I think Dr. Halwale is a man whose soul is sold to Jubilee Tangatanga, but the shell of his body remains in Fort Kenya. And that is why he can talk so confidently and dare Fort Kenya, but that is for them to deal with. Secondly, I think it is important to know that there's a distinction between the ICC ideology and the ICC prosecution. When you don't listen well, and today, this morning, Dr. Halwale was not listening well, he did not listen well to hear that I said Jubilee is founded on the ICC ideology. That does not mean that it was in existence when ICC began, but it means that the ideology that brought Jubilee, the various parties that were in existence, including TNA, was the ICC prosecution. Now that's different. Now coming to the cartoon. First of all, I think that everyone who's expressed themselves on these matters is free to express themselves because we live in a free country. Yes. But particularly, I know that Senator James Orengo has expressed himself on these matters before. I have personally expressed myself on these matters before, and at no time was I ever sent by Raila to express myself, including, you remember I explained on this panel, the distinction between eligibility and preferability. They were entirely my thoughts. So I think that anyone who expresses themselves should be held to what they say. I think that President Uhuru Kenyatta, I think William Ruto, I think Right Honorable Raila Odinga are all gentlemen who are able to express themselves when they need to. So let us debate this thing for what it is, those utterances. Now, let us come to the issue that Senator Orengo has raised. Can the Deputy President be impeached under Article 150 under the grounds that are stated there? The first ground is usually gross violation of the Constitution. The second ground is if there's reasonable ground for the suspecting or believing that you committed a national or international crime. And the third ground is gross misconduct. I think that in an ideal setting, if you were debating those things ideally, you would be able to find that the Deputy President is in gross violation of the Constitution, if for no other reason, but for the simple reason that as the Deputy to the President, he has chosen to abdicate that role, not to deputize anymore. That is a violation of the Constitution. If you were to look at it on the question of international or national crime, that would fail. Not because you can't demonstrate it, but because when the President and the Deputy were facing crimes against humanity, and that question arose in this country and somebody brought it to court, the courts abdicated and said that until they are proved guilty, that cannot be a ground. So in this issue, it would not be. Would the third ground sell? That is a question of gross misconduct. On the basis of the contradiction, and last week I explained here, that these formations of the DCI the DPP, in a large formation in terms of the executive, triangulation, they fall under the presidency. So when the deputy president then contradicts the president and attacks these institutions that are actually he's supposed to support, that in itself would be gross misconduct. So in theory, what Senator Orengo is saying, if it was to be based on what the Constitution says and what has happened, it could be demonstrated. But we know that we live in a political world. We live in a world of political reality. The question is, if it is presented as it is, would it actually pass? Would we summon the 2/3 that we require in both houses? For me, that is an open question, and I cannot speculate. It is true, as Dr. Eseli says, that definitely when it comes to it, money will then play a very big factor. But to say that is a serious indictment of us also as parliamentarians, because ideally we swear the oath to uphold the Constitution, not to uphold money. And so if it comes to that, we would then know those who are prepared to uphold the Constitution and those who are prepared to be swayed by that.
All right, let's hear from Honorable Khalwale.
Okay. I think I'll start on that point by commending on what my brother and my senior, Dr. Eseli, has said. I think, Dr. Eseli, much as we want to push our debates, we should always remember we also have a responsibility to respect our colleagues. To say that your colleagues in the National Assembly are all amenable to being bought, that they stand for nothing other than being bought, maybe you need to be slightly more scientific. You back it up with facts and reasons. When you say that Ruto has the highest amount of money to buy people, I want to invite you to Google Kenya's top 10, the top 10 richest Kenyans. And my brother, Dr. Eseli, you'll find that William Ruto is not one of them. But Uhuru is right there at the top, and Raila is right there at the top. So if there is anybody with tons and tons of money, it is not Ruto, but Raila and Uhuru. Please don't mistake the generosity, especially towards the faithfuls, by the deputy president to mean that he has got tons and tons of money. He simply spends some of his money. And by the way, because I attend a number of his functions with him, for every 1 million he has donated at a public function, he accompanies it with an equal amount or twice as much amount from the president himself. And Cheriot, you'll support me on this.
It's true.
Ruto will say, this is mine, 1 million, and this is 1 million from the president, or this is 2 million from the president, and mine is 1 million. I've seen it. So if it is that money that is given to support churches, then the president is just as accused in your own sight as Ruto should be. Let me come to the issue.
Is this show about Khalwale talking about Dr. Eseli, or is it about...
let me come to the issue of the outcome of 2022 vis-a-vis your anger that Ruto seems to be slowly moving towards victory. Let me tell you, my brother, I don't know whether you speak French.
Yeah, I can.
In French, we say, since you know it, we say that voix de Dieu, c'est la voix des pauvres. That the voice of the poor is the voice of God. My brother, I'll tell you, those crowds I'm seeing when I go to Bungoma, in Sirisia Stadium, in community grounds, on the markets, those people who are essentially the lower half of the halves of this country are sending a message, and that message is the message of God. I long for the day I'll be with you at Sirisia Stadium, share a platform, you sell your agenda, I sell mine, or at Poster Grounds in Bungoma. On the issue of impeachment, Kenyans must remember that Orengo is not only a lawyer, he's not only one of the longest serving politicians in this country. But Orengo has been honored by the office of the president to be called a senior counsel. He therefore owes it to Kenyans to be guided by law when he moves on important issues like impeachment. Orengo knows that he has no power to initiate impeachment because impeachment is initiated by the National Assembly and not by the Senate. So to go somewhere in Ugenya and start playing around with words so that members of the public can think that they have a very strong politician in their midst, it's wrong. In fact, the Law Society of Kenya should find that Orengo's pronouncements are contrary to what he should be doing as a senior counsel. Let me dissect it further. When Orengo says he wants to impeach the deputy president on matters of corruption, it should not be lost on Kenyans that under the current constitution, the deputy president's work is merely to deputize the president and not to preside over any docket where corruption takes place. If they are keen on fighting corruption, why have they not moved motions of censure on the respective ministries that we have been seeing in the papers? If they choose to make that statement by way of saying collective responsibility by focusing on the government itself, then the person to be impeached would not be the deputy president, would be the president, because the president is the CEO. So if he has failed and you are focusing at his deputy, then Orengo, I want to remind you in 1998 when you were in parliament, when there was an attempt by Otieno Kajwang, the late, to impeach Moi, Orengo, you stood up and you said they must enjoin Professor George Saitoti because he was Moi's vice president. So be strong enough, Orengo, to also agree that you are simply playing politics. You don't want to expand the political landscape of this country towards a level playing field. You are afraid of the deputy president because the deputy president is way ahead of Raila in this contest. Supposing this motion goes to parliament, both houses, let me tell you, if Raila and Uhuru attempt to put MPs together so as to vote against the deputy president is going to defeat both of them hands down. I'm telling you. Even in Bungoma and Kakamega, the biggest counties of the Luo nation, Ruto has more MPs than Raila. In Kakamega, Ruto has 4. Raila has 2. In Bungoma, Ruto has 4. Raila has none.
I thought it's Uhuru who has.
Can I argue?
Let him finish.
Can I argue my point? You don't respond.
Why is a senior heckler today? I've never known him to be.
Okay.
Yes, the debate has gotten a little bit hot for him. Why, so that your interjection cannot sink in people's mind, why I am saying, Ruto, you should see what is trending now on social media. People are telling the president, Mr. President, I voted for you because of William Ruto. Have you seen that one, which is trending? Trending all over the place. So the MPs that are in Western, and you know them, Didmus Barasa and others, they are there courtesy of the hard work of Deputy President Ruto. I wish to rest it there. I'll take it up at some stage.
Let's hear from Jacob.
It's interesting coming here, but I think the more we come here, the less substance we impart.
Is that so?
Our viewers. Because I'm listening to my brother Bonnie.
What do you mean the less substance?
Because now what have we spoken about? If he's campaigning for William Ruto, somebody who has been in power, if he has that kind of energy for 7 years, all the country is associating with him is negative hard work. He has too much negative energy. I think he should be saying he promised laptops with all his energy, they are there. Kanana Gulali, there's no food. Here's a deputy president who tells Kenya nobody's dead. And a man comes and says, I buried my wife who was died of hunger. And he doesn't apologize.
But I think that's
However,
that is off the rails on what we're discussing this
No,
morning.
no, no.
We're looking at the impeachment.
I'm saying what I'm advising Bonnie what he should be saying to sell his candidate. I'm saying, tell us something. Because people run on records. People, when you want, these are people who want to lead us debate.
But you cannot purport to say what Bonnie should say because you don't know what
just
briefing.
say
We
your
don't know.
own stuff.
You don't know what. We don't know what brief.
Yeah, and if
Bonnie
you
Halali has this morning to come to the show.
Neither do we know the
to the
brief he's holding.
Yeah.
No.
Bonnie has a script.
He has a script. He has a script as well.
No,
We must be careful about this debate also. I think Bonnie and Mami, today we are 4 against 2.
Continue.
We are finished.
money has been poured. Let me say this, Dibal. All I'm just saying, I'm saying that we need to. We are going to be engulfed in this debate going forward, especially as we sprint towards 2022. Sure, we will be putting a bit more pressure on our gas pedal. But what am I saying? You know, this issue of impeachment, it's all about nothing. And it's not properly executed by the people who purport to be offended, namely Cheriot and Halwale, because what you showed us and the viewers, Orengo was saying how he will lead parliament. And parliament is both National Assembly and the Senate. And that is his role. He is like the opposition leader in parliament. So there you can't fault Orengo. However, ask yourself, how is Ruto important to Ugenya voters? It's just misplaced argument. They should go there and say what they as ODM can do as better than what David Ucheng can do. Because their attempt there in CI, and I want to tell you as somebody, with authority, as somebody who comes from CI, their attempt to link the young David Ucheng with Ruto is hogwash.
Completely.
It is not true. It is not true. But they are doing it. They are talking about Ruto there, hoping the voter would be hoodwinked to link David Ucheng with the person everybody is punching on in Kenya today. And personally, I think it's a political tactic, which is unfortunate, because David Ucheng, I can talk for him as one, ever since I joined politics, probably the most productive MP I've ever seen in this century.
Amen.
So, what they are saying, what we are giving Orengo the credit it does not deserve. Number one, to bring an impeachment motion, there must be some impropriety or criminality. That process, nobody has even taken William Ruto to court. Please give him a break. I have said here 2 weeks ago that there are those other channels that are tasked to deal with the issues of criminality. If it is corruption, this country has proper channels. If we want to implement our constitution the right way, we must attempt, at least at the level of parliament and parliamentarians, we must attempt to follow our laws. Because and both sides debate. When you see Murkomen one day saying the DCI is a puppet of Uhuru Kenyatta, and then the other day he says he should be the one to arrest Raila for swearing in. Which side is he on? If he's bashing the DCI, who is the only honest Kenyan I believe today who is leading the war against graft? You bash him today, then you tell him to go record a statement from Raila. Which one is the good Kinoti? I think politicians need to tell Kenyans and show a face of honesty, including Murkomen and Orengo, because I think they are out of order. And I think we can't give them that space. We must tell Kenyans good things. And let me end by saying, my friend Bonnie, now that you have been defended by the fourth person against you, let me say that, when you say for every 1 million shillings William Ruto gives, he comes up with another 1 million from the president. It is true. I've seen him when in Korea, when I was in parliament, came up with the money and still donated some for Raila. And I asked Raila, did he give you the money? No. The question here is not how much he gives, it's the source of this money. You know, you can call Uhuru wealthy and he makes the top richest. No, it may not even just be the richest man in Kenya or top 10. He may even be in the world, because I believe they do that kind of business as a family. But these are public servants. When you flash 8 million shillings at All Saints Cathedral, your tax records must show where that money came from. This is what Wanjiku is asking. And Wanjiku is not saying it is wrong for William to have money. What we are asking is, tell us the source of your money. Hii duka iko wapi kwenye unatoa pesa? This is what Wanjiku is asking. If it is coming from our coffers, it must be known that somebody is stealing from us. That's why we don't have good roads. That's why we don't have doctors. Our doctors are underpaid. That's why we don't have nurses and teachers, etc. Dibal, thank you.
You know, okay. Dibal,
we should wind up on this particular topic because also, yes.
Just something that I want to say in follow-up to what Jacoyo is saying. They say in a good working country and good gentleman that he who alleges must be able to prove.
Exactly.
And the thing that I want to challenge Jacoyo and Otiende and even Eseli, because they are the ones who keep on harping senseless each and every time about where the source of this money comes from. If you believe that William Ruto has stolen anything that belongs to Kenyans, why don't you take him to court? Why don't you go ahead and charge him for whatever you believe has been stolen? It cannot be the justification that you, being members of parliament and senior citizens of this society, just walk on the streets and say that anyone who's driving a nice car must be a thief. It cannot be the logic of leaders like you. What I expect credible people like you, Jacoyo, to say is that I know X amount of money is missing, and the person who had been given that money to keep for the government is William Ruto. And therefore, if he doesn't have it, we must charge him in court. Otherwise, these continuous allegations, and I have said here previously on the show, I have
I thought I was trying to be a bit mild on you.
No. I have said here before Dibal, just as a closure, that William Ruto has very powerful enemies in this country. If he was to steal a biro pen from his office at Arambe House on Thursday, on Friday morning he'll be in court.
And you know, Dibal,
No.
Coming from Jacoyo, just a small interjection. Coming from Jacoyo is very surprising. For all the years I've been with him, I have come to understand and appreciate that he understands finance. So for him to question where does Ruto get money from because he gave 1 million here, in terms of wealth, what is 1 million shillings? If you are asking for if you are asking for where does Ruto get money from, then you should ask even more loudly, where does Raila get his money from? Let me tell you.
All right,
It is.
No, you've taken off. No.
Please, sir.
You will not die. Too much airtime.
You will not die. You will not die.
Let's respond to some of his.
Jacoyo,
You know,
it is less harmful. It is less harmful for somebody to use political power and fail than somebody to use political power and destroy.
Thank you. Just leave it at
Raila
that.
has a history of using political power to destroy. When he was minister for roads, he destroyed buildings all over Kenya and never built a single road.
Dibal, you are not
Okay.
too much time.
Thank you.
Especially
Just a moment. Order, please. Boni.
I told you that some of us get paid by how much they attack. And that is why Raila's name must crop up a minimum of 20 times. First of all, I am so surprised that anybody can come on this show, especially Dr. Luale, and say, if you Google, you will see Raila is one of Kenya's 10 richest person. I think somebody has corrupted Google in this kind of corruption. That is the only explanation that can make sense.
It is true. You Google now.
I say it, but that's why I said you people must have gotten to Google. I'm very worried about that.
In fact,
secondly,
yes.
Secondly, Dr. Haluale makes a very weird argument that because Deputy President Ruto is deputizing the president, therefore, if there are allegations of corruption, then we should get to the president before we get to the deputy. That is hogwash. He's deputizing the president for the functions of the president, and corruption is not one of those functions. So if you're now involved in things which are not part of the function, how do you get to the boss? You only get to the boss for things that are lawful within the job description of that title. But I think, and then, yes, Dr. Alwale starts counting the number of members of parliament Ruto has, I don't know, in Western. There must be a new political party called Ruto. Because the last time I checked, the records show that there's only the party called Jubilee, there's ODM, there's Ford Kenya, but now Dr. Alwale, who knows this party called Ruto, would be able to tell us more. But more importantly, there are two things here, now that we are talking about this, and talking about generosity. I think, and we need to be clear here, Senator Chiriot, you know I'm usually very careful with my words. I have never said, I've never called the Deputy President a thief, not here, not anywhere else. But what I can say, and I can say that confidently, that when the wealth you have is not commensurate with your work history, is not commensurate with family inheritance, then surely you must draw an adverse conclusion. An adverse conclusion.
Thank you for saying what we have always been saying.
You must draw an adverse conclusion that whatever you have may not have been lawfully acquired.
Yes.
You know, that is the truth.
That's true.
Now, when, therefore, you believe that the Deputy President has all this wealth that is flashes, I'm wondering right now, and that is the subject we should be discussing.
Yeah.
There are people dying of hunger in this country.
Yeah.
Where is that money? Where are we not seeing him going generously to donate so that people cannot die in the neighborhood? Why are we seeing the likes of Sonko and Akode and doing all sorts of stage-managed melodrama and all those millions that the Deputy President usually splashes in churches and to political leaders is not being used to alleviate life? If you really, really are concerned, irrespective of how you acquired it, that's why we should be seeing it. I'm asking myself a second question, which is quite fundamental. That clip, and you saw the clip, there are very many able-bodied men and women who speak robustly, like Senator Cheriot, on everything, especially on Raila. Where are they not talking about the hunger? And the most ravaged parts of this country right now are the parts they represent. Where are we not seeing the voices of the senators, the members of parliament, the whole Tanga-Tanga squad? Why are they not Tanga-Tangaing where they should be speaking? And instead there's denial of death. Isn't it ironic that what we are discussing, the narrative has changed to things that are irrelevant, not to things that are relevant? I think that is something that Senator Cheriot might help us understand.
But collectively, I think all of you should actually be speaking in one
That's
voice.
That's why I'm speaking about it.
Yeah, because
Yes.
we've not seen any of you, even the Agricultural Committee, commenting or really coming to the fore and saying this is a status report that is on the ground. What we're hearing from maybe some of the agencies from government is not correct, that this is the valid report. You failed to do that, and you failed Kenyans as legislators.
But you remember
yourself.
that same Agricultural Committee elected a chair who was then de-whipped by Jubilee, and they imposed a chair on that committee. So you can't expect the same output from that committee. However, for once, I'm going to agree with Halwale when he says that the MPs in Western are Ruto's MPs, because he's actually confirming what I had said earlier. You know, Ruto was in charge of the Jubilee nominations, so he made sure his people were the ones who got those tickets. And again made sure the general election that his people were the ones elected. So actually Uhuru doesn't have any. It's Ruto who has them. So Khalwale is confirming that, which for once I'll agree with him. Then he quoted something about the voice of the poor. Yeah, he's the voice of God. I believe that Khalwale is still, is still transiting from mtetezi wa wanyonge to mtetezi wa mabwenyenye. That's why he's saying that the voice of the poor is the voice of God. I don't know. This thing about amount of money, I think it's not the issue. The issue here is that there are regulations right now in this country. If you are drawing more than $1 million shillings, you need to sort of explain where this money is going and what you're going to do with it. I think all we need to do to absolve the deputy president is to just ask his bankers to give us the whatever of how the money was drawn and what it was going to go for. I think if the bankers give us that, that will be brought to rest. I think the other solution, which I think the president needs to act on, perhaps shortly before the next general elections, the constitution says we should change our currency. We have now changed the coins. I think shortly before the next elections, we should change all the currency and give people a 2 weeks notice to return all the old notes to the bank so that they are given the new notes. Then we'll know who has kept the cash and where it has been kept. That one without having to keep on faulting people who are contributing a lot of money or little money, that will not be very useful to us. Then for Jacoyo, there's something he said which I thought perhaps you've forgotten something, I think, when you said that nobody has taken William Ruto to court. I think that you must be forgetting something. You remember there was something about pipeline land and Gong Forest, if you recall. You remember there was something about Muteshi's land, which he was actually fined. You remember recently the Western issue, that didn't go to court. It went to the National Land Commission. But the other two went to court. So when you say there's been no court, whatever, you know, it's interesting that just this, it's only one person who seems somehow to be always an innocent buyer of any land. He always ends up being an innocent buyer or things like that, which is a very major coincidence, I would say. Otherwise, I think we are losing focus as a country because we are so busy, all of us talking about the 2022 election and forgetting that we first of all need to actually clean up our own country so that if we clean up, then we'll get the right candidates in the long run. Otherwise, so far, as the judgment was made before the 2013 elections, that any case before the ICC, until it's proven, then somebody is still eligible to run. Now that has become the law. And Kenyans should be wary because this might allow several people facing serious crimes in courts but out on bail to come and be elected so they get there and defend themselves from a point of strength as elected leaders. So we need to relook at that law, whether it serves us right or it serves us well or actually continues messing our political space. Otherwise, for the issue of the what we started with about Orengo trying to bring a motion of no confidence, I would advise him not to. William Ruto will use it and make it a vote of confidence.
Just a moment. Yes,
it's my turn.
Tellingly,
yeah,
it is his turn.
He began from Otiende. He'll come to you. Relax.
No. No, he started from you actually, by the way.
No,
yes.
We began with you.
My friend, it was an interjection for 10 seconds, which I said only some. I never spoke.
No.
Just give him a chance. He's not spoken. Yeah. Continue. We're stuck for time.
You know, I'll never get justice so long as Otiende is a judge.
You are the goat.
I am the goat is the Anyway, this is what I'll say. Very interesting remarks from Dr. Otiende, my good friend, about us in Jubilee not speaking and so ably and vocally about the hunger situation. You know, he forgets a very cardinal principle of democracy, that in democracy there's government, there's opposition. And, you know, since the days of a handshake, ODM legislators seem to have been clouded in this handshake thing, that they have forgotten that in this country, Otiende Amolo, you are an opposition MP. I come from the Jubilee party. Ordinarily, how democracy works is that I carry part of the blame as having come from the party that is in government. And therefore, if there are issues like the hunger situation that is being addressed, there are mechanisms through which I channel my frustrations and disappointment on behalf of the Turkana and Baringal people. And I have done that, but publicly is not where I'm supposed to do. The people who are supposed to publicly speak about the ills and the misgivings against government by the citizens are primarily opposition MPs. But the opposition, in fact, we need to have a debate one of these days on the impact of a dead opposition in our country.
Amen.
Because since the day when ODM gave up on its official responsibility as being the official opposition in the country, all we see ODM MPs doing is that they are now lining up in government ministers' offices. If you, after this meeting, chances are very high that Otiende will be headed to a government minister's office, you know?
There is no chance at all.
There is every likelihood.
Let him finish.
If not you, at least that is what many of your colleagues do.
Thank you.
Tenderpreneuring and trying to push these things that way. So the thing that we need to question, and I think time has come for us, part of the reason why so many things are not being done the right way currently is because also people know that after all, you can get away with anything, especially if you're seen to be in praise and worship of the handshake.
All right, thank you. I think we're done on this. Maybe just to get some reactions on Twitter. No, we've gone full circle.
Yes.
Yes, we've gone full circle, and you actually interjected. Right. Let's just get reactions on Twitter. Yeah, you did.
In fact, Alwali spoke twice on it.
Yes. So we have Emmanuel Lekari saying, whatever Boni is saying about Ruto not being among one of the richest people in Kenya is false. Tell him to Google it now. And I've tried to also Google that, and we can see the list given here. Yeah?
I say top 10.
He's in top 10.
In top 10?
Yes.
All right, but he's in top 10.
That is not true.
Yeah, we have here, let's try and see, we have, let me just zoom out a bit.
So who is the richest man in Kenya?
So Daniel Arap Moi net worth, this is $3 billion, the first one there. We have Manu Shandaria following, we have Mama Ngina Kenyatta, we have Raila Odinga fourth,
Yes.
we have Musalia Mudavadi fifth,
Yes.
we have William Ruto at six, we have Mwai Kibaki. So now we'll deny this as well. Right.
But those ones are away from what you do.
He's running away from Google.
It has been restored. So.
Okay. We have also...
No, but at least Boni's point is right that Raila is over 10 times richer than William Ruto.
We have Punguza Muzigo Frederick Okango saying Orengo is relying on provision of Article 150 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 to move the motion of impeachment against DP. He should note that it can only be done by the National Assembly, not Senate. He will also have to prove the gross misconduct and violation of the law. And I think this was clarified also by Otiende Amolo as well. So I just want you also to prepare your parting shots and just also to weigh in, because this was a very contentious regulation on the Kenya Dairy Board. And this is the latest that we have so far. The Dairy Board has suspended processing of the draft dairy regulation of 2019, citing public outcry over the same. A statement from the board's managing director, Margaret Kibogi, however, says that the regulations are not designed to create a monopoly within the dairy sector or adversely impact small-scale farmers. KDB says that the stakeholder engagement regarding the regulations commenced in 2016 and included a national stakeholder forum held in June 2017. The regulations have in the recent past elicited public angst, especially on efforts aimed at prohibiting distribution of raw milk. And this is now the latest from the Kenya Dairy Board. They've suspended this. I know this drew a lot of flack from the public. Maybe as we're winding up, we can just give you a closing statement on that particular development so far, if you are actually privy to that. Right, we can begin with Senator Aaron Cheriot as we're winding up.
On this issue of milk?
Yes, and what we've discussed today.
At least good sense has prevailed, because yesterday I saw a memo from the managing director of Kenya Dairy Board, because these were the worst, I think, regulations ever sent to Parliament. And I do not think anybody in the right sense will propose such kind of regulations and think that Parliament will be able to approve the monopolization of a single industry, because that is what entirely this is what those regulations were going to do. And it speaks to the initial point that we raised earlier on about us, those of us that come from the Jubilee Party, and some of the concerns that we are raising. That's why when we say, for example, that there is need for leaders from Jubilee to retreat and perhaps recalibrate, because it is clearly emerging that we are losing touch with the reality of what the citizens expected of us when they voted us into office. It's really unfortunate.
Right. Let's hear from Eseli briefly. And Boni Khalwale challenged you actually to oust him from Ford Kenya. You never reacted to that.
I didn't say
briefly.
that.
He said that there are organs.
There are organs.
The organs are already in place.
The
And
organs
they are
already-
moving, yes.
okay.
We received the complaint from Kakamega. We've set up a disciplinary committee. They'll call Boni Khalwale to defend himself. So that is already in the process.
Your parting shots, please, sir.
Kenya Dairy Board was behaving like the Holland Dairy Board, not Kenya Dairy Board. Those kinds of regulations cannot apply in a country like ours. And then what Kenya Dairy Board should be doing is busying themselves finding out why the milk production is going down due to the drought, and yet the prices are going down instead of going up. That's what the Kenya Dairy Board should busy itself with. Then finally, I want to plead with Kenyans once more, and I'll never tire pleading with them. Please, 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 come 2022, keep off Jubilee.
All right. That is Eseli Simiu there. Otieno Amollo, your parting shots.
So that they are not misled, contrary to what Senator Cheroyo says, there are no opposition or government MPs in the House. There's only minority and majority. I belong to the minority. But all of us have a duty to Kenyans, irrespective of whether you're in the minority or the majority. I think we should focus, and it worries me that the issue about hunger and death is hazy. You have people denying there's no concerted effort. Secondly, in terms of the dairy board, I think it is good it's been withdrawn. It was never even sent to Parliament yet. But had it been, in my view, those regulations would have been dead on arrival.
Okay.
Dead on arrival because they could not even pass muster under what we have in the Constitution.
Thank you. But I want you also to clarify, because Koa Frederick says that, please ask Otieno Amollo, that did he mean what he said when he said that Mike Sonko and Akothe's aid to Turkana is state-managed melodrama? I'm just using his words like he said them. For some of us, that statement was overboard.
Well, I'm sure you saw, I think it was in yesterday's paper the other day, a picture of Akothe juxtaposed against a picture of Sonko, each of them doing what they do best. I think Akothe was dressed in like a manner to depict some sort of level of nudity, and Sonko was carrying something in his head, and all of that. Anybody who supports hunger is a good thing. But my concern is that we are allowing situations where you and I can then go and donate maybe a sack or something, take a picture, and appear to be alleviating that hunger. That is not what we need. That becomes stage-managed melodrama. Proper arrangements requires that the government should organize itself and alleviate the situation. By now, we should know how many people have died.
Thank you.
How many people are at risk.
Thank you.
What has the government given?
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Giacomo, 30 seconds.
Yes, mine is simple. I think the milk thing is spent. I think the industry is a choreographed monopoly to serve a family, and I think it's a very bad thing. But wrong is wrong, both sides. I think the owners of Brookside, when they made Rotage, whom I believe should have been home by now, to give the monopoly in Full Gazette notice in milk powder, I thought it was a crime on Kenya.
Thank you.
But I wanted just to say...
30 seconds. In fact, 20 seconds, yes.
Yes, that this issue of a hunger and drought, I think the president needs to declare a national disaster and get the military from sitting in the barracks to feed Kenyans. I think that's how it's normally done.
Boni Khalwale,
Yeah.
30 seconds.
What you're seeing on the issue of hunger is melodrama. The deputy president did appear and address the nation after he chaired as a cabinet subcommittee and announced that 2 billion had now been released to address this. What more does Mheshimiwa Otieno Amollo want the deputy president to do? The rest of the melodrama of Sonko, Akothe, and who else does not amount to anything. Finally, the issue of milk. These people are spoiling the good name of the family of the president because they are major players in the milk industry. Milk, until you create the infrastructure that addresses storage of milk, marketing of milk, and financing of milk, those regulations will never apply. Because financing, the moment you go to the issue of financing, 20 to 50%
Thank you.
of the price of the milk that we buy from Brookside and what have you is more, that milk is 20 to 50% more expensive than what a farmer buys in Tongaren.
Thank you.
Because of the packaging.
Yeah?
Thank you. Your 30 seconds are done, sir.
Yes, yes, yes.
Right, and let's wind up on that point. But the question is, we saw earlier milk glut in this country and farmers wading in milk with their boots, which was going down the tubes. You were, by then, you and Jokoyo, Sally, I think as well, you were in parliament by then. What did you do as legislators that now we have also the dairy board coming up with this regulation?
There's no time.
There's no time. We're winding up on that.
Made powder out of it.
Thank you very much for your valued
made
company. We
powder.
really do appreciate also your reactions on Twitter. I cannot be able to sample all of them right now because of time. Thank you.